The key to getting Bitcoin price high was to have low interest rates, right? And we had them in 2020. But now, all of a sudden, we have really high real interest rates. In that environment of really high interest rates, we've had gold prices go up. Except I think Bitcoin's going to go up more.
At the current price levels, it only takes $50 million to turn the entire drive shaft of the crypto economy one turn. So the writing is on the wall. Bitcoin's moving higher.
So Bitcoin's going up 6x, where gold is going up 2x. And the reason for that is there's just so little adoption of Bitcoin yet.
As crypto investors brace for the second half of 2025, and as Michael Saylor and other Bitcoin bulls reassure that the bear market is not returning, and Fred Krueger says crypto price predictions are about to go parabolic. He says Bitcoin is headed for an unprecedented price milestone, and it's closer than anyone expects. According to Fred Krueger, a seasoned investor and Wall Street veteran, who foresees a financial tidal wave that could catapult the cryptocurrency to historic highs. Krueger highlights a dramatic influx of wealth flowing into Bitcoin from traditional finance institutions. He emphasizes that most people underestimate the sheer scale of this movement, and as more institutions jump into the Bitcoin game, he predicts the surge could surpass anything the market has seen before. Bitcoin sits just under $110,000, up over 5% just this week alone. Krueger says we're about to witness unprecedented territory in cryptocurrency. Let's get right into the interview as he gives his latest Bitcoin prediction and where we're headed in the coming months. Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.
We're still very, very high in terms of interest rates. And yet Bitcoin has done great during this phenomenon. So it's somewhat counterintuitive to at least the narrative of 3-4 years ago. And, inflation is down. So, if you just look at Trueflation, Trueflation is saying U.S. interest rates are 1.42%. How come interest rates are even high at all? Why hasn't the Fed just cut interest rates immediately? And people are still saying, I'm just going to put my money in gold. I'm going to put my money in Bitcoin. And that trend is really new and it's really growing. We have never seen a period of real interest rates like this, ever. So what does that mean? We can really stop and ask ourselves, what is happening here? Is there something fundamentally different that's happening here? And I think the answer is yes. What's happening is investors no longer trust the system. I think there's been a breach of trust. And people are going to Bitcoin and they're going to gold, even in a high rate environment. So why is that? For the very first time ever, have diverged in terms of gold and Bitcoin from real interest rates. That's new. Gold has doubled. Bitcoin gone up 6x. Interest rates have not moved. Inflation has gone down. And investors are no longer trusting the system. We now have, with Bitcoin, a completely new and valid alternative. The demographic situation is horrific. And the Social Security, which was used to fund the Ponzi, no longer works. Hold the majority of your money in Bitcoin and sell your Bitcoin over time. Now, I know people like British Hodl are always ribbing me, saying that, I call myself a maxi and I'm advocating selling your Bitcoin. But you know what? It's probably what you should be doing. And let's just start with a $2 million portfolio. And let's just say, hypothetically, you need $100,000 a year for living expenses. I'm paying $25,000 a year in tax here, but I'm netting $100,000 in income every year. And meanwhile, my 2 million is growing literally to 40 million over time. Now, obviously, it's not going to grow at 40% per year every year like clockwork. That's not going to happen. It's going to take a probabilistic path. It may go up, it may go down, but the power law tells us right now that it's growing around 40%. it's going to grow more like 30% in 10 years. But because if you're growing at 40% and you take out the 100 grand a year, really you're left with a very substantial $46 million after 10 years. Now, that won't be the same as $46 million now. It may be half the purchasing power, maybe less than half the purchasing power, but it's a lot more than $2 million. And it's probably going to allow you to live a lot more than with $2 million. Now, I know everybody's like, well, I want to have a separate bucket for my income. But let's suppose you did that and you said, well, I really need a guarantee of this income. And I really don't want to touch my Bitcoin. Well, if you fall for that trap, you're going to need to, even if you find it something that pays you 10% after fees, after maintenance, hard to find that kind of asset right now, right? Hard to find. But even if you did find it, if you want to make $100,000 on your money, you're going to need 1.59 million of that to generate the 100 grand a year. That's only going to leave you with 410,000 to invest in Bitcoin, right? And then that Bitcoin is going to grow, and of course you're not going to need to deplete it. So congratulations, you didn't sell your Bitcoin, but you are you have at the end of 10 years, you have 1/4 as much money. So not very good at all.
A recent prediction from renowned crypto analyst Plan B has captured the attention of the cryptocurrency world, driven by the growing influence of Bitcoin ETFs. But that's just the beginning of an extraordinary forecast that lays out Bitcoin's price journey through 2027. He predicts that we'll see a chain of events that will bring its price from 200,000, climbing all the way through 2025, hitting 500,000, and even a scenario where Bitcoin hits $1 million by the end of next year.
You should not be afraid of selling your Bitcoin, because one Bitcoin is not one Bitcoin. In 10 years is worth a lot more than one Bitcoin right now. And what you care about is ultimately the purchasing power of the Bitcoin. I don't think it matters who's president. That I really do not think it matters. I think gold and Bitcoin are moving together. I don't think that Trump really has done that much for Bitcoin, quote unquote. I think he's done more for crypto, to be honest. I think for crypto, yeah. On these other things like Strife or whatever, my gut feel is you are just complicating your life and you're taking on additional risk like MicroStrategy's MNAV and all the rest, right? If you want you can buy Strife if you want to take on MicroStrategy's credit and everything else. And not terrible, 10%. But as I point out here, having that 10% doesn't help you at all. Will they confiscate Bitcoin? Maybe. However, you can move, right? I don't think it will be confiscated by everybody everywhere in the world. If you get to a point where your government confiscates Bitcoin, tries to confiscate it, you can leave with your Bitcoin. The problem is it's not very easily confiscatable. It is correct. There is $7 trillion worth of government debt. Now, we always have a lot of government debt that needs to be rolled over. So it's higher than normal, but it's not 3x normal. It's maybe 50% more than normal. One of the problems is that Janet Yellen had an opportunity to finance a lot of this debt longer term, and she didn't. So we have an enormous amount of debt that is now concentrated in the short end of the maturity. What I think this is going to mean is that we're going to have to lower interest rates. And we will say we're not doing it to inflate, but we're going to do it. It will cause inflation. It will cause dollar devaluation. In a way, that's the administration kind of wants everything, but that's the path that they're kind of pushing towards, is a dollar devaluation. And they want the dollar to be the reserve currency too, but I mean, it's going to be a slow dollar devaluation, not so much versus the euro, but versus the Asian currencies, in my view. Short end is that insurance, since the interests are so high on the long end. When they do finally cut interest rates, which is probably going to be in about anywhere from 6 months to a year, right? When they finally cut interest rates. This sort of solves the immediate sort of like, okay, the interest payments go down because they're gonna fund it wherever they can, which is going to be on the short end. But that doesn't sort of solve the problem, right? So, I mean, if you look at this previous example, right, if you have $2 million right now, you're in amazing shape, right? Like if you have $2 million right now, in 10 years, you're probably going to have, even if you spend 100 grand of it, you may have as much as 40 million in 10 years, right? That's a pretty comfortable position. I don't know, if you're 35 to 40-year-old and you have a fifth of that, maybe, if you have, instead of $2,400,000 worth of Bitcoin, you're probably in an okay position. To 4 Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoin. I don't think it's 1 Bitcoin. I think if you're in your middle age, you want to have more than 1 Bitcoin. I think 1 Bitcoin's cutting it a little close, in my opinion. My gut feel is sort of 10 Bitcoin is kind of you start feeling pretty good about life. And then if you have more than 10, it's very good.
Krueger shares his bold predictions for Bitcoin in the months ahead. Now that he's laser-focused on Bitcoin, Krueger not only lays out the revolutionary Bitcoin power law model, but also explains why he believes a $1 million Bitcoin isn't just possible, it's inevitable. He says the current volatility is a natural phase of Bitcoin's maturation and could present a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. Krueger highlights how Bitcoin's decentralized nature and finite supply make it uniquely positioned to withstand economic turbulence, asserting that it will eventually outcompete traditional fiat currencies. His conviction? Bitcoin isn't just a speculative asset, it's the future of money, and those who invest now could be part of a financial revolution. What do you think about Fred Krueger's prediction for Bitcoin and where he sees the world of crypto in the months ahead? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next video.